The first time Adaeze Okonkwo heard the name Marco Vitelli, she was sitting in the waiting room of a Manhattan employment agency, filling out a form that asked for her specialty. She wrote, "Children no one else can reach." The woman behind the desk had looked at her over her glasses and said, "Mr. Vitelli's household has gone through 4 nannies in 3 months." Adaeze had asked why. The woman had paused too long before answering. "The boy is difficult." She was hired the next morning, not because she was the most qualified, though she was, not because she had the best references, though she had those too. She was hired because when the agency coordinator showed her a photograph of the child, 8-year-old Luca Vitelli, and described how he had locked himself in a bathroom for 6 hours without making a single sound, Adaeze had not flinched. She had simply said, "What time should I arrive?" She did not know yet that the house sat behind 3 layers of security. She did not know that the boy's father was the most dangerous man in the northeastern United States. She only knew that somewhere inside a silent child, something was waiting to be found. She packed 1 bag. She arrived on a Tuesday. The Vitelli estate did not look like danger. It looked like architecture. 12 acres of manicured grounds behind a stone wall in Westchester, the kind of property that appeared in magazines with captions about private luxury. The gate alone was taller than most apartment buildings Adaeze had lived in. She pressed the intercom. A man's voice, flat, accented, asked her name. She gave it. Silence. Then the gate opened. 2 men met her at the door. Not staff. She knew the difference. Staff smiled. These men assessed. They searched her bag without apology. She let them. The older one paused at her Bible, thumbed the pages, handed it back. Inside, the house was cold in the way that expensive houses sometimes are. Not temperature cold, but soul cold. Every surface was perfect. Nothing was out of place. There were no drawings on the refrigerator, no shoes left by the door, no evidence of a child living here at all. A man appeared at the top of the staircase, tall, dark-suited, a face that had made decisions no one would ever fully know about. He looked at her the way people look at things they are unsure are useful yet. "You're the nanny," he said. "I'm Adaeze. Where is Luca?" Something shifted, barely, in his expression. "He doesn't come down for strangers." "Then I'll go up," she said. Luca Vitelli's bedroom was at the end of the east corridor, behind a door that was always closed. The housekeeper, a small Guatemalan woman named Rosa, who moved through the house like she was trying not to disturb water, had whispered this to Adaeze on the way up the stairs. "He does not speak much," Rosa said. "He watches." Adaeze knocked twice. Nothing. She knocked again and said simply, "Luca, my name is Adaeze. I'm not going to make you open the door." A long silence. "But I'm going to sit right here in the hallway and eat my lunch, and if you want some, the door is there." She sat on the hallway floor, cross-legged, and opened the container of jollof rice she had brought from home. The smell moved through the corridor. Tomatoes, spices, the warmth of a kitchen that actually fed people. 12 minutes passed. The door opened 2 inches. 1 dark eye appeared in the gap. Adaeze did not look up. She kept eating. "What is that?" the boy said. His voice was lower than she expected for an 8-year-old, careful, guarded, like a much older person in a small body. "Jollof rice," she said. "Nigerian, my grandmother's recipe." Another silence. "Is it spicy?" "A little." The door opened 4 more inches. Domenico Vitelli summoned her to his study at 7 that evening. The room was everything the rest of the house was: controlled, precise, expensive. Bookshelves that had been curated rather than read. A desk the size of a small country. 2 men stood near the door in the way that men stand when they are not furniture, but want you to forget that. He sat with his hands folded on the desk and looked at her with patient intensity of someone accustomed to waiting for others to show their hand first. "Your son spoke today," he said. "I asked if my rice was spicy. I'd call that a beginning. The last nanny lasted 11 days. She called Luca a lost cause. Then she was looking for the wrong thing," Adaeze said. A pause. His eyes moved over her. Not in the way that made her feel small, but in the way of a man recalibrating. "There are rules in this house," he said. "You do not ask about my business. You do not discuss what you see here to anyone outside. You do not take photographs. You do not bring people here without clearance." "And my rules?" she said. He blinked, slowly. "Excuse me? If I'm responsible for that child, I have rules too." She met his gaze without blinking. "Luca eats real food at a real table, like a person. No screens during meals. He goes outside every day, and no one speaks to him like he is a problem to be managed." The silence that followed was very long. "Agreed," Domenico Vitelli said. By the end of the first week, Adaeze understood 3 things about Luca Vitelli. 1, he was not cold, he was frozen. There was a precise difference. Cold was a character. Frozen was a response to something specific, something witnessed, something that had happened in this beautiful, terrible house that turned an ordinary little boy into a child who did not cry, did not laugh, did not reach for anything with both hands. 2, he was extraordinarily intelligent. He noticed everything. On Wednesday, he pointed out that Adaeze's watch was 3 minutes fast. On Thursday, he correctly identified the make and year of every vehicle that came through the estate gate by sound alone. He had been cataloging the world because cataloging it was safer than feeling it. 3, he missed his mother. He never said so, but there was a photograph on the windowsill, a woman with dark eyes and a wide, unguarded smile. And every morning, Luca touched the edge of the frame before he did anything else. Adaeze never asked about the photograph. Not yet. On Friday afternoon, she brought out 2 balls of clay and set them on the kitchen table. "What's this for?" Luca asked. "For making things," she said. "What kind of things?"
"Whatever's inside you," she said. He sat down. He stared at the clay for a long time. Then, very slowly, he began to work. Domenico did not mean to watch. He had come to the kitchen for a glass of water at 8:30 in the evening and had stopped in the doorway because something was wrong with the scene. Wrong in the way that things are wrong when they are unexpectedly right. His son was laughing. Not the performative noise children sometimes make. Real laughter, the helpless, ungoverned kind that a person cannot manufacture. Adaeze had apparently said something while demonstrating how to make a clay figure and had dropped the whole thing on the floor, and Luca had found this extraordinary. Domenico could not remember the last time Luca had laughed like that. He searched his memory and came up with nothing, which was its own kind of wound. He did not enter the kitchen. He did not make himself known. He stood in the shadow of the doorway and watched his son be a child for 4 full minutes. And then he walked back to his study and sat at his desk and looked at his folded hands and thought about the kind of man he had become and the kind of world he had built and what it cost to live inside it. He had built walls to protect his family. He had not understood until this moment that the walls had not kept danger out. They had kept everything else out too. It happened on a Thursday, 12 days in. Adaeze was walking Luca back from the garden. He had finally agreed to go outside if she came too, when 2 men passed them in the east corridor, speaking rapid Italian, not quietly enough. She did not speak Italian, but she heard a name, repeated, urgent, and the body language of the men was unmistakable. Caruso. She filed it away. She was not investigating anything. She was not a reporter or a law enforcement officer or anyone with any stake in the Vitelli family's business. She was a nanny. But that night, as she lay in the small bedroom they had given her near the back of the house, she thought about the way one of the men had gripped the other's arm when he said the name. She thought about the extra security vehicles she had counted at the gate. She thought about Rosa, the housekeeper, who had stopped making eye contact that morning. Something was coming toward this house. She could feel it the way you feel weather before it arrives, not in facts, but in the body. She checked on Luca at midnight. He was asleep. She watched him breathe for a moment. This boy who laughed at dropped clay, who touched a photograph every morning, who was slowly, carefully beginning to thaw. Whatever was coming, she decided, it was not going to reach him. He knocked on her door at 6 in the morning. She was already awake. She was always awake before the house. And she opened it to find him standing in the corridor without a jacket for the first time, which for this man was the equivalent of another person falling apart completely. "May I speak with you?" he said. They sat in the kitchen, which was her territory now, and she made coffee without being asked. He wrapped his hands around the cup and did not drink for a long time. "Luca asked me last night why I don't eat dinner with him." Adaeze said nothing. He looked at the surface of his coffee. "I have run operations across 4 states. I have negotiated with men who would have killed me if I'd shown weakness. I have never..." He paused. "I have never been afraid of a question the way I was afraid of that one." "What did you tell him?" Adaeze asked. "I told him I was busy." "And?" He said, "You're always busy. Was Mama always busy too?" The kitchen was very quiet. "Sit with him at dinner tonight. That's the whole answer. Not a speech, not an explanation, just sit with him." Domenico looked at her, this woman he had hired, this stranger who had walked into his fortress and started rearranging things he didn't know were broken. He said, "You are not what I expected." "People rarely are," she replied. The message arrived at noon, not digitally, not by phone, a white envelope, hand-delivered, left at the gate with no sender. Inside, a single photograph, Adaeze, taken through a long lens walking Luca in the garden. Domenico's reaction was immediate and controlled and terrifying to witness. Within 15 minutes, the estate had 12 additional security personnel. Within 30, 2 of his most trusted men were en route to locations Adaeze was not told about. He came to find her in Luca's room. She was reading aloud, something she did every afternoon, always something with a hero who earned their courage rather than was born with it. He stood in the doorway until she finished the chapter. "I need to speak with you privately," he said. She followed him to the corridor. He showed her the photograph. She looked at it steadily. "Caruso." His eyes sharpened. "Where did you hear that name?" "Your men are not as quiet as they think in hallways." She handed the photograph back. "What does he want?" "To remind me that my vulnerabilities are visible." His jaw was tight. "I am going to arrange for you to leave the estate temporarily. There is a safe location." "No," she said. He blinked. "That was not a suggestion." "I understand, and my answer is no." "I am not leaving." She met his eyes without wavering. "If I leave now, Luca loses someone else. That child cannot survive another abandonment, so I am staying." The look on Domenico Vitelli's face in that moment was something no one in his organization had ever seen. He looked like a man who had just been protected by someone he was supposed to be protecting. He came to dinner. Luca looked up from his plate and went completely still when his father pulled out the chair across him and sat down, not at the head of the table, not in the formal dining room, but here, in the kitchen, at the small round table where Adaeze had insisted all meals happen. Adaeze served the food, egusi soup, which she had spent the afternoon teaching Luca to make, and which Luca had informed her was the most interesting soup he had ever smelt. The first 5 minutes was silent. Then Luca said, very carefully, "Adaeze says that cooking for someone is a way of saying you care about them without using words." Domenico looked at his son, then at his bowl, then at Adaeze, who was eating her own food and appearing to be entirely uninvolved. "Is that so?" he said. Adaeze also says that people who don't know how to receive kindness are usually people who haven't been shown enough of it. Luca said this with the precision of a child who had memorized something important. Another silence. "Your mother used to cook," Domenico said, quietly, almost to himself. It was the first time Adaeze had heard him mention her. Luca reached across the table and put his small hand on top of his father's large one, just for a second. Then he went back to his soup. Domenico did not move for a long time. Adaeze looked at her bowl and felt something in the room shift, the way the air shifts when a window is opened in a house that has been closed too long. Rosa came to her room at 11 at night, knocking so softly that Adaeze almost missed it. The housekeeper stood in the doorway in her coat, already wearing her coat, which meant she was leaving and not coming back. And she pressed a folded piece of paper into Adaeze's hand and said in a rapid whisper, "Caruso is not just sending photographs. There are men watching the north side of the property. 3 of them. Last night there were 2. Adaeze gripped her hand. "Have you told Mr. Vitelli?" "Mr. Vitelli has his own information. This is different." Rosa's eyes were frightened but clear. "Caruso has someone inside the house. I don't know who. I've heard things I should not have heard." She squeezed Adaeze's hand. "You are a good woman. The boy, he is different because of you. Please be careful." Then she was gone. Adaeze stood in her doorway and unfolded the paper. An address, a name she didn't recognize, and one sentence in Rosa's careful handwriting: "The person closest to you may not be who they say." She thought through every person in this house. The security men she barely knew, the cook, the groundskeeper, the 2 men who always flanked Domenico. She thought for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and sent a single text to a number she had memorized but never used. Her brother, a former detective now living in Queens. "I need your eyes on something. Tomorrow morning, don't call." She did not sleep. Despite everything, the photograph, Rosa's warning, the sleepless night, she showed up at Luca's door at 8 in the morning with a backgammon board. Because that was the job. That was always the job. Luca looked at the board. "I don't know how to play." "That's why I brought it," she said. They played for 2 hours. Luca lost 3 games and won 1 and was deeply, visibly furious about losing in the way only children are furious, completely, without any management. "It's not fair," he said. "No," Adaeze agreed. "Losing isn't fair. It's just real." He looked at her. "Don't you ever lose?" "Every day," she said, "in small ways and large ones." She began resetting the board. "The question isn't whether you lose, it's what you do after." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "What do you do after?" She thought about Rosa's note, about the photograph taken through a long lens, and about the invisible thread tightening around this house like a fist. "I show up the next morning," she said, "with a backgammon board." Luca looked at her for a long time with those watchful dark eyes. "My father never loses," he said. "Your father loses things you don't see," she said, gently. "He just does it privately." She had not planned to say it, but it was true, and Luca deserved true things. Her brother called it in 48 hours. He had driven past the address on Rosa's note, cross-referenced the name with his old department contacts, and called her back on a Tuesday afternoon while she was helping Luca build a birdhouse in the garden. She stepped away to take the call. "The name on that paper," her brother said, "is a man who has been on the FBI's organized crime radar for 6 years, mid-level Caruso network, logistics." A pause. "Adaeze, that address is 2 miles from where you are." She kept her voice level. "And the person inside the house?" "Can't confirm, but if I had to guess from what you've described, someone who has access to scheduling, routine, movement patterns." Another pause. "Who manages the household calendar?" She thought of the man who coordinated everything: appointments, deliveries, staff schedules. Quiet, efficient, always exactly where he should be. She said the name. "Pull his employment records if you can. I would bet my pension." Her brother said. She hung up and stood in the garden and watched Luca concentrate fiercely on a nail he was trying to hammer straight. He hit it slightly crooked and frowned and tried again. She walked back to him. "Almost," she said. "It's not straight," he said. "Keep trying. Straight takes practice." That afternoon, she wrote everything down: names, dates, what she had heard, what Rosa had told her. She sealed it in an envelope and put it in her Bible, in Psalms, the way her grandmother always kept important things. She would give it to Domenico that evening. She never made it to the evening. At 3:17 in the afternoon, every security alarm on the property activated simultaneously. She heard shouting, men's voices, urgent Italian, the sound of vehicles on the gravel drive that was not the sound of authorized vehicles. She was in the hallway outside Luca's room. She went through his door in one motion, locked it, and said in her calmest voice, the voice she used when a child was about to panic and needed something steady to hold on to, "Luca, come with me, right now." He came, no questions. He trusted her. She felt the full weight of that trust as he took her hand without hesitation. She moved them to the interior bathroom, the only room in the east wing with no exterior windows. She locked the door, she sat Luca on the floor against the bathtub, and she knelt in front of him and held both his hands and looked him in the eyes. "Are you scared?" she asked her. She chose truth. "A little. Are you?" He thought about it seriously. "Not as much as I thought I would be." "Why?" "Because you are here," he said. It was the simplest thing anyone had ever said to her. Outside, the estate erupted. She could hear Domenico's voice somewhere, commanding, precise, dangerous. She could hear glass, movement, the percussion of a world she had been trying to shield this child from. She held Luca's hands and sang very softly a song her grandmother had taught her. What she learned afterwards in pieces was this. Caruso's men came through the north gate, the one Rosa had warned her about. 7 men, 4 vehicles. They expected the household to be in afternoon routine. They expected Domenico to be alone in his study. What they had not expected was that Domenico had been warned, not by his security team, but by an envelope slipped under his office that morning. Her handwriting, her brother's intelligence, the traitor's name, the Caruso contact 2 miles away, and the pattern of the North Gate surveillance. It had given Domenico 4 hours. 4 hours was enough. When the bathroom door finally opened, Domenico himself, jacket gone, a cut above his eyebrow that he was completely ignoring, Luca launched off the floor and wrapped his arms around his father's waist and held on. Domenico froze for a fraction of a second. Then his arms came around his son's shoulders and he held him the way a man holds something he has nearly lost, which is to say, completely, without technique, without control. He looked at Adaeze over his son's head. She was still on the floor. Her hands were shaking slightly now that the crisis was over. The body always settled its debts after the fact. "You left the envelope," he said. "I couldn't sleep," she said. He looked at her for a long time. "Thank you," he said. It sounded like something he had not said in years. The estate was quieter in the days that followed. Not the old quiet, the cold soul quiet that had greeted her on the first day, but a different kind. The quiet of a house that had been through something and was slowly rearranging itself. The traitor, the household coordinator, was gone. The Caruso threat for now was contained. The FBI had been involved in ways Adaeze was not fully briefed on and did not ask about, because asking about it was not her role. Her role was the boy. And the boy was different. Not transformed. She had no illusions about transformation being quick or simple or linear, but different in the small, real ways that mattered. He said good morning now, every day, without prompting. He had started leaving his bedroom door open. He had asked Rosa, before Rosa left, in the brief window before the coordinator's removal meant she could finally speak freely, if she would write down her tamale recipe for him. He had also started asking questions about his mother, not to Adaeze, to his father. She knew because Domenico told her, haltingly, at the kitchen table one morning over coffee, he no longer needed to be persuaded to drink with another human being, that Luca had asked if they could visit where his mother was buried. "What did you say?" Adaeze asked. "I said yes," Domenico said. "I said we would go on Sunday." She wrapped her hands around her mug. "Good," she said. "That's good." Outside the kitchen window, Luca was in the garden. He was building something. He had been building things all week. Her contract was for 90 days. On day 78, Domenico sat across from her in the kitchen, which had become, without anyone deciding this, the room where real conversations happened in this house, and said, "Luca has asked me 4 times this week what happens when your contract ends." "What did you tell him?" "I told him I was working on it." He looked at his coffee. That was not an answer. No, she agreed. I would like you to stay, he said. It came out more directly than he had perhaps intended. She watched him register this, the slight tension of a man unused to stating want without strategy. Luca needs, the work you've done with him is... He stopped. I am not good at this. I know, she said, not unkindly. I would like you to stay, he said again, more quietly this time. Not only for Luca. The kitchen was very still. Adaeze thought about her apartment in the Bronx, her sister, her grandmother's photographs on the wall of her old bedroom. She thought about what she had walked into here, and what she had found, and what she had become in the finding of it. She thought about a boy who sang along now when she sang, who built things with his hands, who had asked his father if they could go to his mother's grave. She did not go with them. It was not her moment, she understood that clearly. She prepared a bag for Luca the night before, his good coat, his notebook because he had taken to writing things down the way she had told him writers do when they want to remember something, and she made them both breakfast in the morning before the car came. Luca ate without speaking, which was different from the old silence. The old silence was a door locked from the inside. This silence was a boy organizing his feelings before something difficult. Before he got into the car, he turned back to her. Will you be here when we get back? He asked. I'll be in the kitchen. I'm making groundnut soup. He nodded. Then, with the precise deliberation of a child doing something on purpose, he hugged her. Not a child's perfunctory hug, a real one, both arms, his head against her arm, the kind of hug that takes a moment to build to. She felt 8 weeks of slow, careful work in it. She felt the thing that had been frozen, thawing. She hugged him back with equal purpose. Domenico was watching from the car. She met his eyes over Luca's head. He looked like a man watching something he could not have imagined possible 60 days ago. She watched the car until it disappeared through the gate. Then she went inside and started the soup and let herself cry a little because sometimes the right feeling is the one that has been building for weeks. He found her in the garden that evening after Luca had gone to bed. She was sitting on the low stone wall near the rose beds, her feet off, face tilted toward the last of the light. Domenico said he talked at the grave. He talked to her for, his voice caught almost imperceptibly, for 11 minutes, I counted. What did he say? I didn't listen to all of it. Some of it wasn't for me. He was quiet for a moment. He told her he was learning to cook. He told her he had a friend. A pause. He meant you. Adaeze looked at the roses. He also said, Domenico continued, more slowly, that his father had started eating dinner with him, that his father had cried once, very quietly, and he had pretended not to notice because Adaeze said sometimes people need to feel things privately, and it's kind to let them. She closed her eyes briefly. You have changed this house, he said. I want you to know what that cost you, the risk you took, the night in the bathroom, the envelope. He paused. No one in my world has ever protected something precious to me without wanting something in return. Luca isn't something precious. He's someone. He looked at her. I know, he said. You taught me that. They sat in the garden as the last light failed, and the estate was quiet around them. And for the first time since she had arrived, the quiet felt like peace. On the last day of the school year, Luca presented her with the birdhouse. He had been building it in the garden for 3 weeks. She had seen it in various stages of construction and answered questions about roofing angles and paint adhesion and whether birds had preferences about door sizes. She answered all of these questions as seriously as they were asked. It was painted yellow, not a bright yellow, a warm one like afternoon light. He had painted her name on the side in careful, slightly uneven letters, Adaeze. Beneath it, in smaller letters, because she showed up. She held it in both hands and could not speak for a moment. I made the door a little bigger than the instructions said, Luca told her, so more kinds of birds can get in. She looked at him, this boy who had not cried,
Had not laughed, had not reached for anything. This boy who now reached for everything. It's perfect, she said. Are you staying? He asked, directly, carefully,
with the full weight of someone who has learned to ask for what matters. She looked across the garden to where Domenico stood in the doorway of the house, watching, as he did now, openly, unguardedly, like a man who had learned that watching the people you love is not weakness. She looked back at Luca. "I'm staying," she said. And the birdhouse with the big door and the warm yellow paint and her name on the side caught the morning light, and something that had been silent in this house for a very long time began finally to sing.